I want to give a huge thanks to PTCGO Store for sponsoring the channel. PTCGO Store is a great website where you are able to buy Pokemon trading card game online codes at some of the best prices. Now, of course, able to order Sword and Shield Rebel Clash codes. Be sure to use code CHIP5 at checkout to get 5% off your order, or click the link in my description below. Once again, that is code CHIP5 to get yourself 5% off your order. Thanks, PTCGO Store. What is going on, guys? Chip here. Welcome back to another Pokemon TCG video, where today I'm going to be breaking down my top 10 cards from the Pokemon TCG's newest set, Sword and Shield Rebel Clash. Of course, I'm not going to be talking about every single card in the set, but I did do a complete set review, so if anything is missing from this list that you want to see my thoughts on, definitely be sure to check out that video. Of course, before we jump into things, it is worth noting that this is my opinion. These are the cards that I think are going to have the biggest competitive impact on the Pokemon TCG. So if I left off one of your top 10 choices, definitely feel free to let me know in the comments down below. Now, with all that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump on into this. Number 10 on my list is Melodic V. As a basic water type, it has 210 HP and 2 attacks, Aqua Impact and Hypnosplash. While I think Hypnosplash is decent, I'm really interested in it for Aqua Impact. It has a base damage of only 10, but then does 50 more damage for each energy in your opponent's active Pokemon's retreat cost. Normally this wouldn't be great, but considering the new Galar Mines Stadium card, which increases both active Pokemon's retreat cost by 2, and Absol from Team Up, which increases your opponent's active basic Pokemon's retreat cost by 1, you can pretty reasonably pick up one-hit KOs on a lot of different things in the format. Its attack cost of Water Colorless isn't too bad and can be powered up pretty quickly by either a Frostmoth or even Welder potentially. This is most likely going to be a Tier 3 or maybe a Tier 2 deck, but I think it will certainly be a lot of fun trying to come up with ways to reach for these one-hit KOs. Number 9 on the list is Speed Lightning Energy. When attached to a Pokemon, it provides 1 Lightning Energy, and if you attach it from hand to a Lightning Pokemon, you get to drop 2 cards. It's really cool to see Pokemon bringing back type-specific special energies like we had in the XY era. Just like in the XY era, I think the success of these cards is totally dependent not only on the effect of the card, but also how good the Pokemon of that type are in the current format. But good news for Speed Lightning Energy, Lightning Pokemon are very good right now. This, of course, could fit into any Pikarom deck and should mesh well with Bolton V, more on this guy later, but it does have some downsides. Of course, it's only a Lightning Energy once the card is in play, so you won't be able to accelerate it with Full Blitz or get it back with Dance of the Ancients. I think this card is decent right now, but keep your eyes on this one once Vikavolt V comes out in just a few months. On to number 8 for me, which is Scoop Up Net. A brand new item card that lets you put one of your Pokemon, excluding Pokemon V and GX, into your hand and discard all cards attached to that Pokemon. I think the first combo people really think about with this card is with Shaman EX in the expanded format, but I'm focusing mainly on Standard today. This can be a pseudo-switch card in a lot of scenarios for certain decks. It's useful to allow you to use multiple Stellar Wishes in a turn without necessarily clogging up your bench with multiple Jirachi. I think there are some other potentially useful partners for this card, like Giratina Unified Minds, Galarian Zigzagoon, and Mewtwo Unbroken Bonds. This is also the type of card that, even if it's not incredibly strong now, it has a ton of potential in the future for any Pokemon with a coming into play ability. All in all, Scoop Up Net is a solid card that will see some play right away, and it has big potential in Expanded and in the future. Number 7 for me is Bolton V. Its 2 attacks synergize very well with one another. Electrify for 1 Lightning lets you search your deck for 2 Lightning Energy, and attach them to your benched Pokemon in any way that you like. And Bolt Storm for 1 Lightning and 1 Colorless does 10 base damage, then 30 more damage for each Lightning Energy attached to all of your Pokemon. Obviously, this card is very similar to its Dark-type counterparts, Darkrai EX from Breakpoint, and Zoroark and Greninja Tag Team GX from Unbroken Bonds, and both of these cards have seen tons of success in competitive play. I'm honestly a little torn on this card. I think it has potential as its own deck, just Turbo Lightning with Speed Energy and all other various Lightning support cards, but I think more likely this card is going to make its home as a 1 or 2 of in Pikachu and Zekrom decks, where it will still be very strong and let you swing for big numbers. Attacks like this that do not have a damage cap are also in a good position moving forward into a format with high HP Pokemon VMAX that give up 3 prize cards. Moving on to number 6, I have Horror Psychic Energy. As my fellow Pokemon caster Jeremy pointed out, this is not going to be a fun one to have to repeatedly say on stream. This card provides 1 Psychic Energy, and when the Psychic Pokemon this card is attached to is damaged by an opponent's attack, put 2 damage counters on the attacking Pokemon. This has good potential with the other Psychic support cards like Spell Tag, and can even let you reach damage numbers you wouldn't have otherwise been able to reach. My feelings on this card are very similar to that of Speed Lightning Energy, in that its success will depend on how good the Pokemon of its type are. Speaking of that, number 5 for me is Dragapult VMAX. It has a massive 320 HP and 2 good attacks. For 1 Psychic, Shred does 60 damage and isn't affected by any effects on your opponent's Pokemon. And for 2 Psychic, Giganto Phantom does 130 damage, and then you place 5 damage counters on your opponent's benched Pokemon in any way that you like. I also want to briefly mention the regular Dragapult V as well. Its first attack, Bite, does 30 damage for 1 Psychic, and then Assault Jet for 2 Psychic does 60 damage plus 80 more damage if this Pokemon was on the bench and became the active this turn. So I am definitely a big fan of this card right away. The damage output is solid, a 2 attack cost is pretty good, and the secondary effect can allow you to set up multiple prize turns or soften something up on the bench to be KO'd later. Especially in a format where Jirachi is so popular, being able to pick off a prize or 2 on these low HP bench setters is pretty strong. I think there are a lot of different ways you could run this. I think Jirachi builds with Scoop Up Nets and other Tech 1 prize Pokemon, like we mentioned earlier, could be popular. I also think a Green's Exploration version of the deck has merit. I think Dragapult VMAX is going to be the most popular new archetype to come out of Rebel Clash. Moving on to number 4, I have Twin Energy. At first glance, you might mistake this for a double colorless energy reprint, but this card has one key difference. If it is attached to a Pokemon V or GX, it only provides 1 colorless energy instead. So this card is made specifically to benefit single prize attacking decks, and it's come at a great time too. Basically the only 1 prizer deck that has seen consistent success since the release of Cosmic Eclipse has been Blacephalon Unbroken Bonds. I think Twin Energy could provide a big boost to different 1 prizer archetypes. I still think that 1 prize Pokemon are in a precarious spot since these VMAX and Tag Team GX Pokemon do still have so much HP, but there are still a few archetypes that I think gain a lot from it. The first one is Lost March. Having 2 different attackers that can utilize Twin Energy is nice, and you are able to hit for 2 relevant weaknesses at once. There are several more interesting Pokemon out there that can utilize Twin Energy, and I'm sure many more to come in the future as well. Number 3 on my list is Eldegoss V. This Pokemon's merit doesn't really come from its attack, though its attack could be useful, but rather its true value comes in its ability. Happy March allows you to put a supporter card from your discard pile directly into your hand when you play this Pokemon from your hand onto the bench. This can be a key card to grab you a Welder, a Professor's Research, or maybe even a Boss's Order to close out the game. It is also searchable with Quick Ball, so if you've missed a supporter but found yourself a Quick Ball, you can search out Eldegoss to help you out. Giving up a spot on the bench isn't great, but I don't think this is going to stop this card from becoming at least a one-of in a lot of decks. Number 2 on the list is Tool Scrapper. This card is a direct reprint of a card that originally came out in the Dragon's Exalted expansion. It allows you to choose up to 2 Pokemon Tool cards attached to Pokemon, yours or your opponent's, and discard them. Cards very similar to this have existed in the past, and all of these have been very playable in their respective formats. Item-based tool removal is just a nice thing to have in the format. Currently, cards like a Skateboard and Metal Frying Pan are pretty safe once they've been put into play, but not anymore. Tool Scrapper just existing in the format may leave you wondering if the tool in your hand is safe to play down or not at any given time. I think as long as Tool Scrapper exists, it will find its way into many decks as at least a one-of to keep your opponent's powerful tool cards in check. And now for number 1 on my list, and that is Boss's Orders. It reads, choose one of your opponent's benched Pokemon and switch it with their active Pokemon. This really shouldn't be too much of a surprise to anyone that this is my number 1 card. Just based on history alone, supporter-based gust effects have been very, very good. Of course, this card is a direct reprint of Lysander from the XY era. I know that cards like Great Catcher, Custom Catcher, and Pokemon Catcher exist, but with the exception of Great Catcher, all of these existed alongside the previous gusting supporters, and still gusting supporters reigned supreme. I already talked about Eldegoss V, and I think that that is another card that makes Boss's Orders very strong, since once you've played one, you should have pretty easy access to it via Quick Ball into Eldegoss if need be. This is a card that is going to be a staple in basically every single deck from now until the day it rotates out of Standard, and that alone is why it is the number 1 card on my list from Sword and Shield Rebel Clash. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed, be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my new videos. I'm also going to be streaming a ton of the new set over on my Twitch channel, so be sure to follow me over there as well to see what decks I'm testing out before I make videos on them. Thanks again, and until next time, take care.